Dear friends, welcome to Know Thyself YouTube Channel. Good morning. Hope you are all staying safe and keeping well. I sincerely thank all of you who have subscribed to this channel and follow the channel. If you find the contents of the videos uploaded in this channel useful, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification or the bell icon so that you can be notified when a video is uploaded. Kindly share the videos with others or on the internet. In the last episode of Know Your Mind segment, we clarified the third part of the human psyche, the shadow, by focusing on its nature. In this episode, we point out ways in which your shadow can be spotted and understood. The shadow manifests itself through shadow behaviors. Since shadow belongs to the unconscious realm, shadow behaviors are largely automatic, unconscious, and unintended. Similarly, shadow behaviors are unique to each individual as they originate from each individual's shadow that is unique to him or her. Shadow behaviors consist in you negatively responding to people, events, or situations. You can spot your shadow by focusing your attention on your shadow behaviors. Let us spell out some of the shadow behaviors which can help you to spot your shadow and have an insight into it. Firstly, shadow behavior of projection. The most common way you deal with your shadow and avoid facing up to the limitations and shortcomings it places on you is to project them onto people around you through the shadow behavior of projection. Let us explain it with an example. Deep down, you are worried that you are not good enough, and you project this feeling on other people in unconscious ways. You see what you do not like about you or what you lack as other people's problem. You unconsciously find a scapegoat for your problem and demonize that person. In the process, allow the blame to fall on the other. Here, rather than taking self-responsibility for your negative emotions or negative qualities, you pass the buck to the others by projecting unwanted things about yourself onto others. The shadow behavior of projection gives you a connecting point to your shadow. Secondly, shadow behavior of being judgmental and critical. You often notice others' faults because you recognize them in yourself as well. You are quick to point out the faults of others, but rarely take responsibility for your own. When you criticize others, you actually but unconsciously criticize yourself because what you don't like about someone you criticize exists in you and you have yet to integrate it. This is why the saying goes, they don't get along as they are so similar that they butt heads. The same principle in the above quoted saying is at play here. The fact that you are too quick to see and think about others' faults and quick to judge them implies that you are not quite different from them. This shadow behavior gives you a link to your shadow. Thirdly, shadow behavior of playing the victim. Your shadow often shows up when you feel that you are victimized. If you feel victimized by something, you tend to believe that there is nothing you could have done to prevent it. So instead of owning up your part in creating the difficult situation, you give up and blame someone else. In a given situation, you even could go so far as to create elaborate fantasies where you imagine that you were the one who was wronged. Self-pity is another form of the shadow behavior of playing the victim. Here, instead of blaming others, you blame yourself, feel sorry for yourself, and begin to see yourself as the victim. Thus, shadow behaviors of playing the victim and feeling self-pity clearly tell that you are looking for sympathy and validation from others, thereby provides an entrance into your shadow. Fourthly, shadow behavior of feeling superior. Thinking that you are better than other people is another way your shadow manifests in your life. Feeling of superiority is often rooted in your childhood experiences of not having been given enough attention and love. As a child, you might have craved for acceptance and approval from those around you. If you have not received what you craved for, you may compensate it by being superior to others and by acting judgmental and arrogant. Feeling of superiority and acting judgmental and arrogant are only way to cover your own feelings of helplessness, worthlessness, and vulnerability. You feel less vulnerable and helpless when you adopt a position of power over someone else. Let us take the example of the boss at work who is on a power trip over those under him. The boss's display of strength is aimed at hiding his own inner insecurities and feeling weak. In this shadow behavior, you can find an entry into your shadow. Fifthly, shadow behavior of feeling internally triggered. When someone says something to you, their comments or words niggle and prickle you deep inside. You feel they have hit a nerve and nailed your coffin, which triggers old wounds and hurts. Often this happens with people who belong to your family or friendship circles. This feeling internally triggered suddenly creates an impulsive negative reaction that expresses in anger, frustration, and defensiveness. The reason behind such a reaction is that by their comments or words, they have touched upon something you have repressed into your shadow. Here you have an access point to your shadow. Sixthly, shadow behavior of sadism, masochism, and forms of taking pleasure from pain. Sadism consists in you taking pleasure by inflicting pain on others, while masochism consists in you getting pleasure when pain is inflicted on you, particularly in the area of sexuality. Though it may seem strange and weird, sadism, masochism, and other forms of taking pleasure in destroying others or in self-destruction exists in mild forms in everyday life. For instance, you might secretly be pleased when a friend seemingly fails at something, as this makes you feel that the other is not better than you. Similarly, you might choose to destroy yourself as a workaholic just to prove yourself. Since these types of shadow behaviors stem from your shadow, they provide a window into your shadow. Seventhly, shadow behavior of unhealthy relationships. It consists in you playing old unconscious patterns of interacting with others through dysfunctional, unhealthy, and toxic relationships. In most cases, you are not consciously aware that you have been replaying the same unconscious roles from childhood. Since you feel comfortable playing these roles, you make them as the framework to interact with others. However, these old unconscious patterns of interaction can be destructive in the context of your present, thereby create relationship dramas. Let us clarify these patterns with a few examples. If your mother had a bad habit of criticizing you, then you might unconsciously repeat the same behavior towards your partner or seek out for a partner who also treats you in this way. Similarly, when you are angry, you lash out. When you are hurt, you withdraw. And when you are rejected, you begin doubting yourself. If these old patterns of behavior established at the earlier stages of your life dominate your present relationships, they provide an opening into your shadow. If you find one or more of these shadow behaviors in your present situation, and if you take time to reflect on them, they would give you access to your shadow and throw light on the contents of your shadow. In the next episode, we will consider a few neuroses associated with and stem from shadow that serve as signs of unintegrated shadow, the analysis of which can help you to understand and integrate your shadow. Thank you for watching this video. Stay blessed until we see you again with another video.